everybody. Welcome back to another resource review. My name is Danielle. I'm the Community Connections Coordinator at Seriel. And today we are joined by Jane from Selkirk Mental Health Centre. Hello, Jane. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being here to chat with us. So let's jump right into things. What is Selkirk Mental Health Center and what programs are available? I feel like sometimes when people hear Selkirk Mental Health Center, they get a little intimidated.
Yes, very true. But we are a provincial mental health center. We service people from all over the province and from Nunavut. And we have 5 different programs here. Our acute program, which is for shorter term stays for people with acute mental health concerns. We have a little bit longer term rehabilitation program. We follow psychosocial rehab and we look at increasing skill building and treatment and reintegration back into community. We have a geriatric program for the more elderly population. We have an acquired brain injury program, and we also have forensics. So the 2 programs that I largely work in are acute and rehab. So often my comments will focus a bit more on those programs.
Okay, wow. There's a lot of different programs that you have going on there. So, and you mentioned from Nunavut too. So, from all over Manitoba and Nunavut. So, how are these people getting connected with Selkirk Mental Health Center?
Right. So typically, people are connected to Selkirk Mental Health through a doctor, especially if they're coming into our acute program. But for our other programs, a little bit longer term, a referral is made through a community-based program. So either from their doctor, from another hospital, or from a community mental health program. Fill out a referral. We will meet with the potential patient and their supports, and then we will assess them to see if they would benefit from coming to our program. So for most of the programs here, the process to come in is a little bit longer and requires a referral and an assessment. And for the acute, it's typically quicker and through access through your doctor.
Okay, so if that was something you were kind of considering when you're looking for support with your recovery, you could talk to your doctor about it and say, hey, I heard about this at Selkirk Mental Health Center. Can you refer me to that?
Right, yes.
Okay, good information to know. So, as a social worker, I feel like that's such a broad term. I know social workers do so much. So, what does your role mean for the patients at Selkirk Mental Health?
Yes. And like every other social worker, yes, our role in hospital is very varied. So we do a lot of different things. But initially, when somebody first comes in, everybody has a social worker assigned, every patient here. So we meet with the patient and we'll address initially sort of the practical needs. So is their housing secure while they're in our facility? Do they have access to their personal belongings and their money, or do they need some support around that? We often will talk with them and find out who are their informal and formal supports. And we'll try to help liaise with those people as needed and as necessary. But keeping them up to date and informed of what's going on throughout the admission, and really trying to keep that bridge to community as closely connected as possible. And then especially at discharge, we're heavily involved to ensure that as much support as possible is available to them when they leave here. For some of our patients who have been in some of the little bit longer term programs, our involvement with discharge planning is much more extensive. And so we're often finding a supported placement for people and connecting them with professionals and keeping everybody who's in their life involved and up to date and knowing what's happening.
Oh, excellent. So you're not, when someone's, done their time with you guys, you're not just, okay, bye, catch you later. You're
Right.
making sure that they're set up for that continued success for themselves.
Yes. Yeah. We typically try to make sure that there's some continuum of care when they leave here.
Okay, excellent. And you also mentioned that you make sure that they're staying connected socially as well to sort of their community around them. So, are you guys offering any sort of cultural programming or outreach programming where people can still come and get involved?
There's cultural programming here, yes. We have many Indigenous patients and Inuit patients. So we have an Indigenous program here offered at Selkirk Mental Health Centre. There's elders and Indigenous workers and different cultural activities, and just sort of that social connection if they identify with that cultural background. So we try to keep that cultural piece right at the forefront as well.
Oh, excellent. That's so great. So, you mentioned that the programs will tend to have sort of varying lengths, between the acute or the longer term care. So, with those, is it sort of a set time of, you're going to be here for 6 months or 8 months or 2 weeks, or is it really dependent on what your recovery is like?
Yeah, it really does depend on what the recovery is like. For people coming into our acute program, typically we look at stabilization and reconnection with supports in the community and discharge. So that'll happen often a lot quicker. For people in, say, the rehabilitation program, it depends on, where their illness is at, what treatment they're looking for, what goals they have, what kind of skill building they need to work on. And so it's really much more recovery and goal oriented and not so much a timeline oriented. So you do have to stay at SMHC while you're here. There's not really that outpatient type of a program. So we try to look at people's goals, and when they achieve those goals and are ready to go back into community, then that's when we start talking about discharge.
Okay. And so while they are staying with you guys, I know you mentioned there's no sort of, coming from home every day to attend program, but are your family members or those core supports you were talking about, are they able to still come in and spend like an afternoon with you and hang out for a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. We encourage, if there's family or friends who are involved and are going to be involved outside of here, we encourage that connection remain while they're in hospital. If there's professionals involved, we encourage that they stay in touch with those professionals. And if we are able to have any type of a planning meeting or discharge meeting, that all of those people be involved in those meetings. So whether it's for a visit or just to hang out and get that social connection, or for a formal meeting to meet with the team, we encourage the family and friends to stay involved for sure. Right now, of course, like everywhere, it's a little bit different, but we are offering visits. They're a little bit more restricted, but we are encouraging families still to come and visit under the unusual circumstances right now.
Absolutely. That's great. So we've talked a little bit more so about the mental health side of things. Is there programs for people who are struggling with substance use or addiction as well?
Yeah, so we see addictions and mental health often go hand in hand. So we have an addictions and mental health team here at Selkirk Mental Health Centre. So this team is made up of a variety of people, of staff who work here from varying disciplines. And we just get some extra training and can provide some one-to-one support for patients here who are identifying that they have an addiction. We provide some groups on addictions. And so we can offer that extra support. We also provide training to other staff across the center, just so everybody's kind of familiar with addictions and how it interplays with mental health. So we do offer those supports. We don't have sort of a formal addictions program through AFM or anything like that, but we do have access to extra resources and extra staff who are trained a little bit differently in that area.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you guys are doing such great work for the community, and definitely like even just in this conversation for you, it doesn't sound as intimidating as it, might initially sound, right? When people talk about, a mental health center. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I do
You're
have
welcome.
one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite office item or knickknack?
Ooh, well, probably the one that I get questions most about. It's not in this view, it's sitting up there, but I have this little, it looks antique, but it's not, a tea set. So questions about where the tea set came from and how old is it and do you ever use it? And I don't use it. It's covered in dust, but it's a good conversation piece.
Excellent. I love that. And it just reminds you to, like, have a little tea time for
Yeah,
yourself, right? To relax. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jane. It was so great to have you here. Thanks for answering all of our questions. We'll make sure that we put any contact information and stuff in the description below for folks so that they can look up on the website as well about more information and stuff and know how to get in contact with somebody if they have questions as well.
sure.
And that's going to be it for us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another resource review, and take care.